Today's guests are hosts of the Brooker Family Popcast, a weekly family entertainment and pop culture talk show for parents and kids. Each week, actress and comedian Heather Brooker joins her husband, Chris, and daughter Channing to have unfiltered, family-friendly conversations about pop culture and entertainment. Chris Brooker is a recovering radio DJ with a passion for music. As a former program director for several stations across the Midwest, he became an expert at finding new artists and sharing them with the world. Heather Brooker is an Emmy Award Winning actress and comedian. She's appeared in over 40 films and TV shows, including Grey's Anatomy, The Office, Fresh Off the Boat, The Mindy Project, and more. Also, Heather was in the unprecedented role of digital entertainment reporter for KMBC in Los Angeles, where she regularly interviewed celebrities and luminaries in Hollywood. And the real star, Channing, is an actress and host who loves to explain things to her parents. This is so funny. She created the segment Chansplaining in the show that they host, where she breaks down things she and other kids love to talk about. She has starred in a local production of Annie. She loves to talk about Roblox, YouTube, ice cream. Welcome to the Social Sunshine Podcast, Heather, Chris, and Channing Brooker.
Wow, we seem really impressive when you read it like that. We are.
That's a good resume,
Right?
Yeah.
You want me to just go around with you, and I'll just every time y'all walk in a room, I'll just do that.
Yes. Please. That would be amazing. we need a hype person.
There's some music in the background. It'd be great too.
Okay, Channing, we got to start with ice cream. What's your favorite flavor?
So many flavors, but it's a weird flavor that I like. But if I had to pick one, it would be cotton candy. It's a weird flavor, but I love it so much.
It's not that weird. It's really good. The new Barbie flavor of ice cream at Cold Stone is cotton candy flavor, and it is delicious.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never had cotton candy flavored ice cream. I guess I'm not living life.
Go live life. Go live life.
Go live it.
Okay, Channing, how old are you?
I'm 10 years old. Yeah.
So, have you loved doing like just entertaining things and all this stuff, like as long as you can remember? Is it more recent? Like because I know that you perform and everything. When did all this start for you?
I was playing Roblox on my iPad, and just my mom's like, "Do you want to become an actor?" And I'm like, "Yes, I want to become an actor. I want to make people laugh." And I'm like, "Okay."
That's how it happens.
That's my perspective.
Your memory, you mean?
Yes.
That's the simple version.
Yeah, but don't you feel like you were also always like, you used to put on magic shows for me and Daddy?
Yeah, I'm still to this day, like, just so I can stall for my bedtime, I just like get a box of dad jokes that I gave my dad. I'm like, "What is a dog's favorite instrument? A trombone."
She does do like a nighttime routine, and
Every
sometimes it's stand-up comedy, sometimes it's dance,
A song, maybe.
sometimes it's song. Yeah, so we always get like a little evening show before bed, which is always very entertaining. So yeah, I think there's always been a little bit of a showmanship side of her.
It's a very creative stall tactic that she uses to put off the bedtime as long as possible.
Right. Time for bed, but don't you want me to sing you a song?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And maybe I do.
I love it. That's so cool. Well, you're doing fantastic. It's so funny to talk to you guys now after all these years of knowing Heather virtually, because I mean, I've known you online since I don't know how little Channing was. It was a long time ago. And when did you start your other podcast? What year was that? Do you remember?
I started Motherhood in Hollywood when Channing was 2. So it was about 2015.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Because that's when I started listening to you, Heather. And I don't know if you remember me telling you this, but there were like several shows hosted by Heathers that I loved. It was like you, Heather McDonald, and Heather Dubrow.
Yes.
And we lived out of town for a temporary time for my husband's job, and I didn't have any friends, or my kids were babies and all this kind of that life. And so that's whenever I fell in love with podcasts. And yours was one of the ones literally in that first year that I became a devoted podcast listener. And I loved it so much. I was so obsessed, and I was like, I want to have my own podcast one day. And it happened 4 years later. But I loved it so much, and I was so obsessed with it. And then we got to become friends, and I was like, oh my God, I am friends with the Motherhood in Hollywood girl. It's a big moment.
is I very much remember that you reached out to me on Instagram and said like the nicest things. And you were like, I love your show. And it was just so kind. And like, honestly, as you know, as a podcaster, when you're creating something every week, you're essentially doing it for free. I mean, most podcasters are doing it for free. We're not all the Joe Rogans of the world making millions of dollars, you know?
Right.
So you're doing something for free. You're putting your heart and soul into it. And then when someone takes the time to reach out and go, this resonates with me, or I really love what you do, or this is funny, or whatever, it means the world. So I was like, yeah. And we started chatting and connecting, and I have been friends, like you said, virtually ever since. And also in real life, like if I saw you in real life, we would be like, hey,
I know. I need to get back to LA. I haven't been in so long. So like pre-pandemic, it was, I don't know, whatever year it was, but I will get back out there. I want to ask y'all though, while we've got Channing, I want to ask you, Channing, about y'all's podcast or it's Popcast, which by the way is genius, you guys. What do you love about doing that with your parents? What are your favorite things? What do you like to talk about?
Honestly, kind of things that we have in common. So like things that I have in common with my dad are a bunch of Marvel movies, and things I have in common with my mom is that when she was a kid, she used to play a bunch of video games too. So
it's true.
Oh,
I
cool.
like talking about newer video games and older video games and TV shows that my mom and my dad enjoyed.
Right. Oh, that's cool that you have like certain things that you have in common with each parent. But now you got to keep them young, Channing. You got to talk about this new technology.
It does like let us know what's happening in like games and stuff. Like I had never heard of Roblox until she told us what it was, and that all our friends were playing it. And she explains to us what games she really enjoys in Roblox.
Yes, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And a lot of new games that I just recently saw, and I was like, oh, this is a fun game. And then I started playing it, and I'm like, I'm obsessed with this game.
Yes.
I understand. My kids love the games too.
Yeah. So we love games, and we all love movies and TV shows. And it's honestly like we just have a fun conversation about it. You know, Chris and I have to be careful that we don't sometimes just keep talking to each other and forget that Channing's there.
Yeah. So I'm in the podcast room, I'm just like,
what's going on?
because I'm in the middle, so I'm like,
because there's some stuff that we have seen that maybe she hasn't, so we have to be careful that we don't do that. So it's been a good exercise for us as parents too, to be able to like explain things to her, talk about new shows, talk about new films and experiences that we've had. Like right now we are revisiting all of the Superman movies, so we've gone back and we've watched Superman 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to be talking about that on an episode. And it's been really interesting to see from her perspective, because those movies are over 30 years old.
Yeah.
40, I think.
Yeah, 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting to hear her perspective on those old films, and like, because the graphics are totally different, the special effects are totally different.
Not used to it.
Yeah, but she loves superhero movies, and it's like, well, then you've got to see the OG Superman movies, because those are such a moment in time.
Well, and she points out stuff too that we don't even recognize in the movie. Mm-hmm. From her perspective, she'll see something completely new that we never even saw before, and it's eye-opening for us as well.
Right. That's cool. You're right. Like it's interesting seeing things from a different perspective once you have a kiddo and you show them like the stuff. Like, I don't know if y'all have watched The Never Ending Story with her, but
a long time
it's been
ago.
a while.
Yeah. I think she was little, and we need to revisit it again.
We did. My husband Ryan and I did that with our kids. Like, it has been a few years, and our kids are 9 and 12. So y'all know how it is. Like a few years is a long time in kid years. So we need to revisit it as well. But I will never forget that night, because we all watched it. And the kids, I think they were still little, or it kind of went over their head. But Ryan and I hadn't watched it in a while. And we were like, this is so deep. Oh my God. Yeah. I was like almost crying, because the messages can be different. And then if you see it through your kids' eyes, that's a whole other perspective too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I love it.
We're definitely revisiting some classics, and we just have a lot of fun, but we're also watching like current shows too. Like we just finished watching Is It Cake?
Yes, and my mom baked this like cake, and she put a bunch of frosting in it. Sadly, I didn't get what I wanted to do with the cake. I just wanted to hold the pan, grab a fork, and just like eat it with the fork.
Yeah, she wanted to just eat it right out of the pan. I was like, let's not be too wild. But we did the whole thing like, is it cake? It stabbed it open.
And then my dad, I think so.
I think it's cake. Looks like cake.
You don't know.
And a lot of this sort of stemmed from the fact that, during the pandemic years when we were all sort of locked in our houses or whatever, we were watching a lot of TV together. We watched all the Harry Potter movies, with
all the Marvel movies,
all the Marvel in order, all the Marvel movies and stuff. And we just had so much fun. I think like a lot of families do, we spend time watching television together and watching shows together. And it was just really fun. The conversations we were having and finding things that we can watch together. Because we also would watch stuff like Succession and Game of Thrones and like grown up stuff that she can't really watch. But it's certainly a bonding experience and a lot of fun that we have whenever we watch something together. But we do love, is it cake? I want to be a judge on is it cake? Like,
yes, let's make that happen. Anybody listening? Okay, Channing, one more question for you. If you could tell like any kiddos listening why they should listen to y'all's show, like why? Is it because you talk about games? Is it for movie lovers? Is it for kids that like all kinds of things?
It's because we sometimes recommend things for kids that for kids that they might like TV shows, movies that they might like, and also some video games too.
Yeah,
that they might enjoy and take their time on.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm gonna get my kiddos to listen. I'm sure they're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right. Do we need to let you go so you don't get bored with us grown-ups?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Have a good time.
Peace.
Bye. Thanks, honey.
Bye. Nice to meet you, baby.
So funny. Yeah, she doesn't hold back. Here, hold on. Our dog has somehow managed to find the way under my chair.
The whole family is on the show.
Literally,
The
every
cat is
cat
right
is
there.
on the other side of the camera.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone is like, I would like in on this, please.
I love it. Well,
Yeah,
thanks
we
for letting her
finally
join us for a
learned.
few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask you guys a little bit more about the podcast, but just other stuff y'all got going on too, if that's cool.
Yeah.
But so what's the story behind your family podcast? Like, when did this come about? Why was it just kind of a natural thing? I mean, I would love to hear the inspiration.
Well, we have, from my perspective, we've got access to a lot of premieres and previews and stuff like that we go see often as a family, Marvel movies and kid movies and things like that. And a lot of times we'll go see these premieres and we'll talk about the movie and what we liked or hated about it or whatever on the way home. And we realized that we were having some really great, entertaining conversations. We were making each other laugh. Shan had her unique perspective on what she saw. And, Heather and I have always loved talking about movies and things that we like together. And, the family dynamic just kind of grew from that. And we realized, hey, this is fun. This is entertaining. We're making each other laugh. And I think maybe other people might like to hear that too. So Heather's the brain behind the podcast development. So she was like, this is a good idea for a show. Let's see what we can do.
Well, I also started looking around and I realized there isn't anything else like that. There's no podcast out there that families could listen to together that isn't like storytelling. Like, there's a lot of podcasts for kids and families, but it's like adventures and story time and lessons learned, or let's learn about geography and math.
Educational.
It's educational, yeah. And we
Boo education. Boo.
Boring.
don't teach anybody, but we were like, you know what? Let's do something fun that families can listen to together and talk about other movies, because we know families are having conversations about these superhero movies. We know they're talking about like, what do we want to watch tonight? Or, what do you think about the new Mario movie or whatever? We know families are having these kinds of conversations, and there's just no other podcasts that you can listen to or watch. That's another thing that's unique about our show. People can watch it on their Apple TV. You just have to search for our show. They can also watch it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So we wanted to create a space where families of all ages could feel comfortable listening and also hear conversations that felt more natural and unfiltered, because we're not
We go off on tangents all the time.
yeah,
I mean, it's structured to a degree, but we also give ourselves a lot of room to play around with each other and talk and let ourselves go off on those tangents. Now, to be fair, Heather has to rein us in sometimes. If we're running a little long, let's move on. Let's wrap it up. But that's part of the organic conversation that we like to have, and it's just natural and it feels right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like real life family chat.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you mentioned video. Okay. I was going to mention this actually. Y'all's show's the first one I've seen on Apple Podcast video. Like me, I don't know other show. And I look at a lot of shows, but is it like, have y'all noticed that there's not very many? Cause yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
I did notice that. I think though, based on the amount of emphasis that like Spotify is putting right now on video podcast, and how many, if you'll notice, there's a lot of comedians who are doing video podcasts now. I think that that is the way that a lot of these podcasts are going to be going, because it's just we're a visual world. You know, I've listened to your podcast and I've heard you talk about this before. Video is still king. People
Right.
want to watch little clips, little snippets. Like I can't tell you how many times we've watched people in podcast interviews now reveal something, like what reality star has revealed something, and everyone goes, oh my gosh, and those clips will go viral. It's like everybody now can have their own talk show,
Yep.
essentially.
Right.
And you can't do that when it's just audio only. I think audio only is still in the podcast world dominant for sure.
Sure.
But in terms of what I wanted to do with our show, which was be able to promote it on social media, and also knowing that I have such a visual platforms, you know, with Instagram, TikTok, and visual presence, I wanted to be able to take our clips and like post those.
Yeah.
So
That's a natural progression too. Just,
Yeah.
you know, to take what we shoot from our podcast and transfer it over to social media. It's a natural fit.
it's
and
a
fun.
lot more work. It's definitely a lot more work because I do everything on my podcast. I don't have a booker. I don't have an editor. I do everything myself, and it's a tremendous amount of work. I wish that I wish that I had a team in place, but that's sort of, I'm also kind of a control freak. Like I like to do things.
You?
He's like, no, she's not at all.
That's the first I've heard of that. That's
Like things, and I have a hard time like letting it go. As I get older, I'm getting a little bit better. So
Yeah.
you watch yourself, because when she leaves,
I'm in trouble.
you're still here.
Right.
I'm stuck with it.
You gotta live with her.
Brittany,
Chris.
help me.
I love it. Well, you bring up a good point about podcasting and like what goes into it. If you actually do a thorough job at it, and you also are consistent and really putting out episodes and stuff. I mean, a lot really goes into it. Especially if you have video too. What have you found though? Like, do you think that, I feel like that's probably one of the biggest differences, right? I'm trying to compare like from maybe when you started podcasting, Heather, a long time ago to now, right? Like videos, one of the biggest.
Video is
differences.
definitely having a moment in podcasting for sure.
Yeah.
And if I could go back, you know, sometimes people ask me if you could go back and, you know, do something different with motherhood in Hollywood, I would have filmed it. I've interviewed some of the biggest stars in the world, biggest moms and dads in the world on motherhood in Hollywood, and I don't have any video to be able to now share on social media of those moments. You know,
Right.
Sherry Shepherd, who has a huge talk show right now.
Right.
Hold on. Chan, what are you doing? You're being really loud. What are you doing?
My kids are like locked in their rooms upstairs with
like-
their iPads, y'all. Sorry.
Pipe down. But if I could go back and redo Motherhood in Hollywood, like that's the main thing. That's the one thing I would do differently, is I would have filmed my episodes, because so much of content now is visually driven.
Yep.
And I think in the podcasting space, it's going to be even more so. Like there's people getting talk show deals based off of their podcasts.
Right.
There's
Well, and social media too. I mean,
Yeah.
just
Right.
that impact alone.
yeah, exactly. So
Right.
yeah, that's for me has been like one of the biggest changes I've seen.
Yeah. So I actually remember, now I don't know if this was actually the first time Chris was on Motherhood in Hollywood or just earlier in that time, but I actually remember hearing you on there, and I didn't know until more recently that you used to work in radio, or maybe
Yeah.
I did, but I forgot over the years or something. And so I remember hearing you on the show and being like, man, he's doing a good job, because like when I had my husband on, no offense, Ryan, he wasn't quite as smooth with the process as you. And then now it all makes sense, because I'm like, oh, you worked in that world. It makes total sense. But I remember you appearing on Motherhood in Hollywood and me loving that and loving you guys talking together. So when I found out y'all had the family show, I was like, this is perfect for them, like as if y'all didn't know that. But in my mind, I was thinking, this is amazing. So how have you, like, what's been your experience, Chris, like from, because you don't work in radio anymore, right?
No, I don't. No.
Yeah. But you did that for a while, right?
I did. Basically, I'm dating myself right now, but like throughout the 90s, the entire decade, I was in radio.
Okay.
Music director,
program director, all throughout the Midwest.
DJ, jock.
Now, I read on y'all's website that you're going to judge me for who my favorite band is.
Probably.
So let's go ahead and just do it. But I don't think I'm going to get judged that bad. Now, I am like pop music, Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, all that.
I don't have a problem with pop music.
But
I used to, but I've evolved.
You've had to kind of, but as far as like a band, like just a good old band, my favorite is Sister Hazel.
I like Sister Hazel.
They're so good.
Sister Hazel.
They're so like not, I guess probably as famous to other age ranges.
Yeah, no, Sister Hazel's great.
But I love them. I didn't think you would judge me for that. I think it's okay.
No, they're good. No,
You passed the test.
you pass. You pass.
Thank you.
We'll continue this interview now.
You aren't gonna hang up on me. What about you? What's your favorite band?
I've got so many. It's so hard to say. It's like
right now is a better question for Chris.
Okay, cool.
It kind of
Who's standing out right now for you?
Right now, I'll honestly say I really like Moby. Okay. Moby's latest album that he came out with is really fantastic. We're both big fans of Mike Doty, who used to be in the band Soul Coughing in the 90s. He's a very prolific singer-songwriter out right now. Really good stuff. I like a lot of electronica stuff, down-tempo, electronic, techno-type music.
Yeah.
I like Moby. Faithless is really good. Sneaker Pimps, things like that.
Like, I have no idea what.
I don't know what you're even saying right now. But yeah, that's kind of my vibe.
Well, somebody listening is going to know, but I am a shallow, pop music listener.
No, not shallow at all.
We listen to pop music. Like, we like Channing's favorite band is Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
Like, she loves Imagine Dragons. We listen to a lot of that. We listen to Billie Eilish,
a little Taylor Swift is in there.
I like pop music. I like Britney. I like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, like all that stuff.
One of my last gigs in radio, I programmed a top 40 station. I programmed a pop station, and that was an education for me, because I came from like the indie alternative world of the 90s, and my last gig in radio was actually a top 40 station. And I developed an appreciation for pop music through that. I was like, okay, I get why people like pop music. I have to stop being such a snob.
Yes.
So
it's catchy.
It's catchy. It's fun. And I completely get it.
It has a place. It has a place. I always say that like the music that I like may not always be like the deepest or this, but at least if it's like playing at the party, we know we're going to have fun for sure.
And that's honestly the best testament to a good song and good music, I think. Can I dance to it? Is it something I'm going to sing over and over again? Here's my biggest test. When it comes on the radio or on satellite or whatever, am I going to turn it up and stop like scrolling through the stations and stop on that song? Like any song that makes you stop and go, yeah, that's my jam. That's a good song.
Music is wonderfully subjective, and that's what's great about it. Mm-hmm. Like there's no one in the world that's like, nah, I don't really like music. Everyone likes music. Everyone likes music, and that's fine, but everyone likes music. It's the one uniting force in the world.
Music. I'm like, are you okay? Are you a serial killer?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is or a robot or something.
Universal.
Well, I feel like with music and like you guys loving movies and stuff so much, I feel like now, I mean, I don't watch as many movies as maybe I did when I was younger 20 years ago, but I do recall like movie soundtracks from when like all of us were a bit younger, especially were like the thing. I mean, The Bodyguard and Armageddon and like these huge motion pictures, right? Like, do you all still feel like that about or about music and movies, or is it's a little different?
You want to take this one?
Well, I'll take some of it. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things I notice in movies is the music, is the soundtrack. Not so much the score necessarily, because that's a little bit different, but the soundtrack is usually, you know, any pop songs, you know, that are around at the time. I'll definitely notice the songs if it's used right. If it doesn't work right, I'll know if the song is,
feels out of place
or unique to that movie. Yeah, it's definitely a high point in a movie for me.
I totally agree with that, and I think a good example of that is recently we saw Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And we both walked out of there going, that soundtrack was amazing.
Well,
the music was so good,
and it fit.
It was so perfect for the film. So you know when a soundtrack is good and it works with a movie and helps you feel something, you know, moves the story along.
Right.
But then you also know if it doesn't work, and you're like, ooh, this doesn't fit. Like, because I'm sure you've been watching a movie and you're like, or something, and go, what is this song? Like,
why is this
feels
song here?
very strange.
Right. Yeah. No, I love it. I like to nerd out on all that stuff too. And I feel like, I guess now that I think about it, maybe like music being discovered in a movie soundtrack back in the day, maybe it's just because now there's social media and like so much music is discovered there. So maybe there's just not as much emphasis on movies, like, you know, but they still have it. But like, I feel like also like TikTok, like I'll be like, you know, we're all like, oh, that's a TikTok song. But I'm like, oh, it's actually a song, Brittany. Like,
I know.
It's not like a 12-second clip.
That's actually Channing's perspective. She'll say, oh, that's a TikTok song. I know that song.
It's like, no,
this came out in the 90s. You know,
right? There's some station. I think there's like a satellite radio station or something like that. That's like TikTok. Okay. My friend was playing it. And I was
in TikTok songs.
Like whatever's trending or
radio.
Yes. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I'm over here like, I know enough to do this dance in like 15 seconds of the song. And that's it.
But that really speaks to the power too of TikTok. And I know you know this, but TikTok is without a doubt, in my opinion, the most powerful social media platform right now. I think Instagram has lost its luster quite a bit. It's still important. Brands, for some reason, still really gravitate towards doing deals and stuff there. But for me, and TikTok is hands down more influential, more people are discovered that way. Like I see people doing my job who are TikTok stars, and I'm like, what? Hold on a minute. So it's definitely a powerful platform for sure.
Yeah, and as far as music discovery is concerned, social media has changed the landscape. You know, you're right. Soundtracks, but you know, back in the day, used to be kind of how people discovered new music sometimes, and now it's TikTok, it's social media. You know, a lot of it.
Yeah, it's really different, but it's fun. It's cool. It's interesting. I would be interested to like pick the brain of somebody behind the scenes on that, like how it works. I always want to know like how the business of such and such works and all that stuff, but that's awesome. I wanted to ask you, Heather, before I let you guys go, a couple of things about like what's been going on with you, just because you and I haven't chatted in a little bit, like with your career, as far as like you've been doing stand-up, I know a lot more recently, but then I also think it's so fascinating that you as an actor have had the chance to interview a lot of actors. So I feel like you come at this whole industry from all angles. What's been going on? Like you've been doing stand-up, yes?
Yes. So I started doing stand-up before Channing was born, over 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it a lot. But then when, you know, as often happens, we have our kids, we pause for a second and reprioritize things. And I just loved being a mom so much that I was like, I don't want to go out to the clubs at 10 o'clock at night. Like, I don't want to every night. Like, I don't want to do that. It's a grind doing stand-up comedy, especially in LA or even New York, like the major markets. You have to be at the clubs almost every night. You're out there doing sometimes a couple of shows a night to stay relevant, to meet people, to connect. And I just didn't want to do that. So I took a very long extended break. And a couple of years ago during the pandemic, I was really just feeling this lack of creativity in my life. And I worked for NBC at the time. So I needed to find a way that I could have a creative outlet that wasn't necessarily me doing stuff that was quite so public on social media. Like you have to maintain this like somewhat composure of like, I'm a serious journalist, you know, thing. So I was like, oh, I'll go out and I'll start stand up again. I'll start doing that. And I just really missed it so much. And I love being on stage. I love making people laugh. I love trying to piece together a joke where I'm like, if I say this, will people laugh, or will they get more of a laugh here? Like what's the artistry somewhat behind stand up is really fascinating and challenging to me as a woman of a certain age. Trying to start a career in stand up is challenging, and because it's very much still a male driven young person's game where but I love it. Like I'm really enjoying it. So I'm doing stand up. I also still freelance entertainment report. So I'm still doing interviews every once in a while. And then content creation and the podcast. So I'm staying busy, but like all good things. The main goal ultimately though, is to continue being an actor and to get on a series or get in movies and that sort of thing. I would love to do a show with Channing.
Yeah.
Someday I would love to be able to act with her in some way. Maybe I'll just
Yes.
write something myself.
You should.
That'd be perfect.
I just have one
Yes.
more thing to your to-do list.
Right, let me-
You know?
You don't have anything else to do, Heather. You may as well just do that.
Put that in there.
If someone else would write it, that would be amazing. But I honestly, at this point, I'm like, I should just write it myself.
What's it been like from your perspective, Chris? Like witnessing that, because you know people see a career like Heather's and see like, oh, you're on TV, oh, you're, and it's very exciting. But like you also are seeing all sides of it. Like, how's it been watching the
Behind the
progress of
scenes.
her career? I'm just curious.
I don't know how she does it. I mean, I don't know. She's constantly has like 5 plates spinning in the air at once while she's juggling, and you know, and it's unbelievable. You know what she does. You know, you kind of read her resume at the top of the show, and every time I hear that, I'm like, I am such a loser compared to my wife. She has so much good. She's done so much, and she continues to do so much. And you know, sometimes she doesn't realize that. Sometimes I have to remind her. I'm like, look what you've done. Look what you've created. Look what you are creating. You know, don't sell yourself short for a second. And I'm just forever in awe of everything she does.
Oh, that's nice. That made up for the thing you said earlier. So now we're good. Well, I've never been able to ask somebody that and from your perspective. So I appreciate it. That's cool.
Like,
Okay. And so
I will say to Chris's credit, he definitely is a very big grounding force for me, because as you know, when you're creating stuff and you're putting your life on social media, you get caught up in the what ifs, and you get caught up in the jealousy and what other people are doing and the I'm not where I want to be, and you know, that sort of thing. And he does a really good job of keeping me grounded and reminding me like, hey, you have accomplished so much. You know, it may not be exactly where you want to be yet, but this is a big deal, you know? And so I think it's important to have people like that in your life who can remind you of the good things that you've done and that you've accomplished, because it's really easy to get bogged down in the negativity and the feeling like sorry from yourself or, you know, whatever. So that I'm super grateful for.
that's so sweet. Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I have a similar situation with my husband. I'm like you, Heather. I want to like do all the things all the time, and let's do it better next time and better. So yeah, it's cool to have people that genuinely love you and care about you in your life as like, you know, to remind you like, hey, you need a little pat on the back. You did a good job.
Yeah. You're doing good. You're hang in there. Yeah.
Hey, we all need that sometimes, right?
Yeah, we do.
Before I let you guys go, tell me what you're looking forward to. And it sounds like such a cheesy question now that I say it out loud. Sorry, but I just want to know what you're looking forward to with your family podcast. Like, do you guys, are y'all still experimenting on topics? Are you know what I mean? Like, give me an idea of like what's coming up for it.
Well, it's still relatively new. I mean, we're only about 20 episodes in, so we're still growing. We're still figuring things out. We're working on our space, the logistics of our space right now, because I have in my mind a vision of visually what I would like it to look like. And unfortunately, those kinds of studios and situations are very expensive. So I'm still like trying to figure out how we can do what I want it to look like visually while not like, you know, spending tens of thousands of dollars or whatever.
Yeah, you have a vision in your mind that you're trying to match.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's challenging.
There's that, and I also think we're going to have to play around with the format a little bit more right now because of the strike, the SAG strike. I'm a member of SAG, and they have asked SAG members not to promote struck work or AMPTP productions, which means like Barbie movie, Oppenheimer, anything new after the strike that's coming out. They've asked us not to promote it. Well, our whole podcast is based on, well, not really promotion, but we talk about movies and television shows.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of that is previews and reviews of new content. So like a lot of people who are in my similar position, we're having to navigate that and kind of restructure a little bit and go, okay, what can we talk about that will not violate anything with SAG, but also still let us be true to who we are and movie fans and stuff like that.
We're trying to figure out the line that we can't cross.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah. And I think, so we're playing with that format a little bit, but ultimately, as long as we're being true to ourselves and who we are as a family and continue to just show up every week and just be like, here's who we are. We hope you enjoy it. That's really our goal, is to just entertain and make people laugh along the way. That would be great.
Keep it organic and fun.
Yeah.
You know, that's the basic premise behind our show, is organic, fun conversation about stuff we like.
Right.
Yes.
I love it. I think it's really, really cool that you guys are doing it. Seriously, whenever I first found out, I was genuinely excited because it's just perfect. So, okay, we'll put in the show notes all the links and everything, but please just say it out loud where everybody can find the show and information about it and all of you guys.
Sure. So you can listen to our show on every major podcast platform. Please subscribe, friends, and give us a 5-star review. We would be so grateful.
Like and share.
And then also you can head to brookerfamilypopcast.com to listen to the show there. Also check out the merch that we have available, because we are very excited about putting our face on a water bottle. And it's and then also you can follow us on all the social media platforms as well at the Heather Brooker and Brooker Family Popcast.
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right, you guys, go listen to Brooker Family Popcast. Thanks you guys so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany.